There are many opportunities in a science career for women today. Women even have the opportunity to become biological scientists. One of the more important women who helped us with our environment is Rachel Carson. She wrote many books, and you can find out more about her at the Women's Heritage Center. Or you could read Up Close with Rachel Carson, environmentalist. In today's generations, women have major opportunities to become physicians. A lot of people don't realize that Clara Barton was the founder of the American Red Cross. One of the great public health leaders was Rose Kushner, who helped with the treatment of breast cancer. Today, women can even become pharmacists. Women can also have careers in the field of engineering. Computer pioneers such as Leela Todd Butler, a pioneer in computer programming and mathematician.
Hi, I'm Ellie, and I'm here today to help you understand how to put together an exhibit for the Maryland Women's Heritage Center. You've been asked to create and design an exhibit for women in a non-traditional role of construction. So what we're going to do is to look at the different ways that you can do an exhibit. Now I know that all of you have done display boards and bulletin boards for your school, but to do an exhibit for a museum, well, that's a little different. An exhibit can be different things to different people. And so we're going to look at the three types of exhibits that are available to you. One is the art exhibit. This is when a group of artists get together and put on a show about their artwork. And any of the materials that are available is more about the artwork than the artists themselves. Commercial exhibits are usually for trade shows and expos, and they have usually a big display board behind them with information about what trade that they are representing. We're not going to do that type of exhibit either. The type of exhibit we're going to do is an exhibit, or called an interpretive exhibit, for a museum. An interpretive exhibit is the kind of exhibit you see in museums, science centers, zoos, and they all have one thing in common. They have an interactive part of it, or something that draws you to that exhibit, that gives you information about a subject or topic or focus that is part of the museum's mission. This is what you'll be doing. Your mission is to design an exhibit about a woman who's in construction. So that means you can use a lot more graphics and a lot more text in your exhibit than you would if it were a fine arts exhibit, which has very little text, less than what you find in a trade show, because you want to get the people to the point of and focus of your exhibit. Creating an exhibit, well, this takes a lot more planning and foresight. The first thing you need to do is to decide on your topic. Who or what or why this exhibit is important. The third is gathering the information and doing the research. And the third is collecting and creating an exhibit that is creative and engaging. Three very important things. And the last one is very important, because how many of you would like to go into a museum and not be engaged by what you're seeing there? First steps is to decide what your topic and the purpose of your exhibit is going to be. What do you want your visitor to take away with them? In this case, you've been asked to select a woman who is in the construction and building trades, which is a non-traditional role. Your career choice is non-traditional, and in general, you have a really good chance for yourself to literally format and make this topic very engaging to start with. Many young women do not think about going into this non-traditional role, but I see more and more young women out now into the building and construction trade. So what makes a woman want to go into the construction trade, you might want to ask. You might want to look at it from that focus of why, what was the purpose for her wanting to do this, and what kind of role model is she for other young women who might want to look at a non-traditional career role. First step is to decide on what your topic and the purpose of your exhibit is going to be and what you want the visitors to take away from the exhibit. So you might want to look at the woman that you're doing the exhibit on and what her role is in construction. Is she an electrician, builder, carpenter, or is she a building manager? All those different things. Is the construction part that she's in, how is this exciting? How is it informative? Why did she get into construction? What was it that made her want to become somebody who worked in construction? It could be a whole number of reasons why. You need to look at those to see if that is an exciting, interesting topic and that's something that visitors will want to take away with them. Next step is to collect the information, the artifacts that you need for this exhibit. And you're lucky because more than likely the topic of your subject, the woman that's in construction, is alive and living close by so that you can call her and find out all about her. You can do a telephone interview. You can contact her by email. You can set up your interview time so that you can go and meet with her and find out all the information one-on-one about this person. Now, before the interview, you might want to line up the questions that you would like to ask this person. Think about the kind of information that you would want to know about this lady, what you would like to know. What exactly does this lady do for a living? What is exactly her job in construction? You can do any one of these things. This is the important part, is to get the questions that you have up front so that you go into the interview prepared to ask her the questions that you know that you want to put down or information that you want to include in your exhibit. You also might want to find out what kind of tools, equipment, or things that she has available that she might want to let you have on loan for the exhibit. How cool would it be to actually have, say, a woman who is in road construction and you have her boots, her vest that you can have on display? That would be kind of very interesting to people. Here's this vest that a woman wears, her boots, the type of gloves that she wears, the hard hat, and compare them that they are basically the same thing that men wear when doing road construction. And besides that, it doesn't hurt to ask. You might also want to find out if she would be willing to be videotaped or photographed so that you can have those information for your exhibit. Now you're going to plan your exhibit. What kind of tools or equipment does the woman use? What if she's a landscaper? You might want to use a little bit of that in your exhibit. For instance, she takes lattice material, you can use lattice material or a bench. That could be a base for your exhibit. What helps is creating your drawing. You want to do a drawing of your exhibit of how you want it to look when you're finished. So you can look at the tools, the materials that are available to you. Don't limit yourself to Home Depot or the local hardware store. Talk to the lady. She might even have some of this leftover material that she can say, you can have this to build your exhibit. Another course, if you're a very hands-on type of person, is to do a mock-up exhibit. Now, a mock-up exhibit is when you use foam core and cardboard to build the exhibit, and you can use it as that half an inch equals 1 foot or an inch equals 1 foot, whatever makes you more comfortable with your building. It's a lot of gluing and taping, but it will give you an idea of what your exhibit will look like when it's finished. Now, here's some guidelines for how large you can make it. Don't make it too large. 2 feet by 6 feet is more than large enough, and it will also give you a chance to be able to put it together at the museum. Your final exhibit should not be too large. No larger than 4 feet wide, no higher than 6 feet. It can be smaller than that. You might want to just do a tabletop exhibit part of it. Or you could want to do it so it's in the floor exhibit. What you want to make sure is that it's portable, it's easy for you to transport, it's easy for you to put together. Our next step is the font and the images that you want to use. Font is very important. You do not want to use 12-point font. That is fine when you're writing a report for your teacher, but for an exhibit, it's nearly impossible to read and it's very tiring. You also want to stay within no more than 200 words per paragraph, making it very simple paragraphs. So let's start with the headline. To get people's to get them to the exhibit first, you want to tell them who it's about. So women in landscaper, whatever the title you want to be, make sure it's quite large. Your next step is to use the correct font size. You want people to be able to see the title from across the room. So even the smaller titles, you want them no smaller than 22 point. You also want to make sure that in this case, less is more. Do not overwhelm your visitor with too much information. Your paragraphs should be no more than 466 characters or 3 sentences per paragraph. The reading level for your text should be that your intro paragraph should be at the 3rd to 5th grade level, and the text itself can be from 5th grade to 8th grade reading level. Trust me, people do not want to read and a lot of big words. They want the information up front, so simple, in this case, is better. Make sure you reuse the right fonts for titles, and that can be up to 85 to 95 point for your head title. And then when you move down to 65 for your subtitle, and then of course 26 to 36 for the undertitle of that, and then consider to using at least 20 to 22 point for your text. Now here are some examples of a good font, which is in our timeline exhibit, which up above is adding her story to his story, is approximately an 85 point font, so that'll give you a good chance of how large a font can be. Some of the fonts in the timeline exhibit are quite small. There's a charm to the timeline exhibit so that it has some good elements, and it has some elements that could be greatly improved. So it's a good example of what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Here's an example of more of a bulletin board type of exhibit. It's a nice exhibit, but it's something that you see most of the time in a classroom. Now, compared to that is a good exhibit is our women's equality exhibit, actually using a mannequin to kind of pull you in to the story.
Here are some of the costumes the first female astronauts wore. And the center also has exhibits of costumes of women suffragettes. And here's an exhibit of the equipment from the U.S. military field used by a Maryland female doctor in the 1980s.
Another good example of an exhibit is the Rachel Carson exhibit, which uses very large images, large fonts, easy to read, even has what they call an information panel part of it. Interesting, you can look around. It is a trifold exhibit panel that is being used to tell her story. Another engaging exhibit as an example, is our light boxes, which is for our Maryland Women's Hall of Fame. As you can see, the draw there is using the light boxes to get you to come over. They're a triangular shape. The font is a good sized font as far as each of the women are concerned. You're not going to be doing 6 women, you're going to be doing 1, so you have an advantage over there instead of trying to collect information on 136 women. And in this case, there's only 60 in there right now. You're only going to collect information on 1. As you can see, font size does make a difference and make it easier for your visitor to read.
Women can become space explorers. This piece was created by Zakiya Tomlinson, an aerospace engineer.
Well, I've always been really interested by the space shuttle. It's an amazing vehicle. I mean, it can fly in space and land like an airplane, which is an amazing engineering design, really. There's nothing else at the time that's anything like it. So I've really been interested in the shuttle program, the missions that it's been able to do, and it was fun to have kind of your own little shuttle that you can build.
Can you explain like some of the parts on there?
Sure. It more or less looks like an airplane, so I mean it has wings, which it doesn't need when it's in space, but when it comes back down to the ground and lands, then it has to be able to fly, which it doesn't do the greatest job at, but it still is able to fly, and they can land it on a runway just like any airplane that you'd take a trip on. It also has kind of an area where they can store payloads that they would take up into space. They can take satellites, like the Hubble Space Telescope, and they can carry along components for building the space station, and it's really amazing as far as what it can carry. There's nothing else that has kind of that big of an area that you can take things into space.
That's cool.
What if we wanted to check it out? Where would we go?
You can learn a lot about the space program and accomplishments that NASA's done here by going to the visitor center that's at Goddard. They have a lot of great exhibits. You can learn about what they've done for the space program.
Your next set is the things that you want to put in your exhibit. That's the objects. What kind of objects are available to you that you can use to make your exhibit much more exciting to people? What would be of interest to you? Would it be a pair of boots? Could it be a level, a trowel? Think about the types of tools that your woman is using, so that you can ask her if you can have some of these to put in the exhibit that would be on temporary loan for your exhibit. This will make it much more exciting for people to know more about this person. It gives them a connection. You want to create a connection between your visitor and the person that you're talking about. Unsung Heroines has good elements and bad. The cutout part of the exhibit, of the cutout clothes, are a nice large format exhibit part of it, whereas the good parts of the other part of it is that we have them hanging in a window, and it looks like stained glass, so that's a very engaging part. People notice them, want to come over and read them. Complaint there is the font is too small. So we're here at the Maryland Women's Heritage Center are still on a learning curve also, so that is why we can help you as you help us. You can help us with an exhibit that's very engaging, and also by looking at what we do well and what we could even have done better.
Today, women can even have careers in the field of engineering. Women can even become aviators, such as Major General Margaret Woodward. This exhibit is for Dr. Mary Cleve, one of the first astronauts in Maryland.
I'm Dr. Mary Cleve, and I'd like to say hello. We have a lot of interesting things going on when it comes to careers in science, technology, engineering, and math, and it's really exciting to be able to share some of them with you. This is a very exciting career for kids, any kid, but in particular we'd like to encourage girls to think about being an engineer or a scientist, because it's really a fun career. I worked for over 30 years as an engineer, and I can't think of anything I could do that would have been more fun than what I did, and what I'm still doing, in fact. So it's really a great thing to consider.
Your next step is to secure those objects onto your exhibit. You don't want people picking up an object that has been lent to you by your your woman who you're writing about, she's going to want those objects back. So you want to secure them. You need to look at the way you can secure them to your exhibit and make sure that nobody can pick them up and walk away with them. And you also have to decide whether you want people to be able to pick them up. You might not want them to pick it up, and so then you might want to put a cover over top of them and secure that cover down so that they can look at the objects, but they cannot touch them. Think of all those ways that you could do that without taking away from your exhibit. Your next step is images, which are photographs. It also might be a video that you have taken of the woman, and you might want to look at how you can incorporate that video into your exhibit, or how to use the photographs. People need to see those images clearly so that you have a nice image to show them. A video, you can use a computer and put the computer in the exhibit so that it can be a touch screen, it can be however you wish to put through to make this an interesting exhibit for people to look at and to learn about this woman. We have these information pieces here. They're much too small. They're only 12 point. They should at least be 20 to 22 point at this point so that they're easy to read. And the pictures are also too small. An image should be no less than 8.5 by 11, and that's the standard paper size, so that if you're looking at an image, you can really see what's happening in the image. You don't want images that are too small. You now have all the information, the images, the research that you've done. You even have your subject at hand so that you have all your information. You have your mock-up exhibit. It is now time to put this all together. The ladies have determined how much money you can spend, and you have that figure in front of you. So don't limit yourself just to the art supply stores or the Office Depot or even the hardware stores. Remember what I said about talking to your lady, finding out whether there are materials or stuff that she has left over that you can use for your exhibit that would help, really connect with people. You want people to, when they see your exhibit, to be excited. The worst case scenario is that she says no, but I doubt it very much. If I were honored enough by a young lady to ask me, what do you do for a living, and want to interview me, I would start bringing out and pulling out a lot of stuff and saying, you can use this and this, and by the way, let me help you. And I probably would want to help you. So what I want you to do is to be flexible in your design, and the most important part is to have fun building it. Thank you. This is Ellie Elgin, signing off until next time.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the show. This is Ariel Brown signing off, and we'll see you next time.
I don't think I ever consciously wanted to be an explorer. I didn't know what an explorer was. I just knew that I wanted to study fish, and it was when I went to the old aquarium at Battery Park in New York, and I just thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if I could spend the rest of my life studying fish and actually go in the water with them and see them underwater as I'd pretend I was underwater when I looked into the tank, especially the one with sharks. And I guess in order to do that, I would have to go out into the world and underwater, and I guess that was exploration, but I didn't call it that at that early age. And my parents would say, well, maybe you can study typing and how to be a good secretary, and you can become a secretary to somebody like William Beebe. That would be exciting, wouldn't it? And I said, no, I don't want to be anybody's secretary. I want to do that stuff myself. I want to be like William Beebe. No, well, I was brought up in an age where Jaws hadn't come out yet, and I didn't think of them as vicious animals because they don't look like it when you watch them in an aquarium. They've got big teeth, but then so does your dog. My first encounter with a shark underwater was in the Palau Islands. I was swimming and along came a great big shark, and I looked at it and it was just so beautiful and streamlined and didn't pay any attention to me. It just swam by and went down the reef. Maybe it was 7 feet long, maybe 8, but they look larger underwater. All things look about a third larger. And I was a little startled, and then I was disappointed that it went away. And then later I learned to sort of crouch in the coral reef when the big shark was around if I wanted to get a good look. And I got once in the Red Sea, I saw this huge giant, the great hammerhead, coming along all by itself along the reef, and it was getting ready. So I just made myself part of the reef. I hugged him and it came right by like that, you know. I hated to see it go away. Maybe it's communication to people. I mean, you could sit in your ivory tower and do any kind of research you want, but if you don't communicate with your scientific colleagues and the local people, have to know what you're doing. And I guess that's what I'm so proud of, because Mwhc has developed into more than just an isolated little laboratory where people study fish, to a place where people can come and learn about fish, go visit the aquarium, and many of our scientists are lecturers. And I think it's important, since the local community supports us, that we give something in return. And that was Bill Moat's big thing. We have to give back from the sea. The fun that we have fishing, studying fish, or anything that lives in the sea, we can't just keep it to ourselves. We have to publish scientific papers, popular papers. I've enjoyed writing for National Geographic, although most of my work has been scientific papers that the average person doesn't read. And then giving lectures and interacting, and a place where children can come, schools can bring their classes. I think that's one of the most important things our laboratory does, and I'm very proud of, and I could have never handled it all in that small laboratory.